Hi everyone, my name is Becc Sahasrara. I am a speaker, a psychic channel, and a feminine empowerment mentor. Welcome to this video. Today we are speaking about the divine masculine. We want to speak about how to heal the divine masculine in ourselves, in our society, and in our life. This is such a major issue at this time, and especially for women who are living through a time where there is more resentment towards the masculine than ever before. There's more pain and grief than perhaps ever before, or it's coming to the surface more consciously at this time. And for men, they are being called into their power at this time, and also a lot of men are suffering at this time. So we want to talk about this dynamic through a spiritual lens so that we can all find our true power. Especially if you are a woman, you are going to have lived through many experiences in your life with the masculine that weren't good. They just weren't good. This is because the masculine has been in a deep state of suffering. He has been disconnected from his own feminine, and so his relationship with the feminine is unhealthy. Now, this is not an excuse for men, and this is not a reason to do away with healthy boundaries or empowerment that women have lived themselves into, have reclaimed in this life experience. And it's also not an insult to men or anything like that to speak to the issue. So I'm not going to speak delicately about the side of the masculine or the men's situation. I know a lot of people on social media are cautious, or we are politically correct about how we should speak about these topics, and then so too some feminist movements are downright aggressive and unnaturally violent in their relationship with the masculine, and they call that teaching. We are finding a middle ground of just truth. It is important. It is important. This is like the paramount split between what wants to be union that is happening in our society right now. And I believe that's why when I asked Spirit today and I said, what would be of the most service to speak to today, this was the topic. So collectively, we are at a crux point where, and I want to invite everybody, I wrote an in-depth article about this on my Substack to watch after this video. It's really good. And what I wrote in that and what I have noticed is that men are in a state of borderline extinction in terms of they're about to lose their existence. Why? Because so many women have decided that they are done with men, and they have cut off, and more every day are cutting away from men themselves. And obviously this is going to lower birth rates and things like this, and men will die out. And I say this in this language because I want men and women to understand the severity of the situation. That everybody is at this tipping point, and that's why we need to talk about it from a spiritual lens and actually look at the root issues here. So men are in a crisis of not knowing who they are, of being disconnected and unintegrated in their own feminine, thus the treatment that they then outwardly project towards the feminine. This is men who have who are not healed in this way. And obviously that's caused a lot of suffering and a lot of pain for women over millennia. And this dynamic of like the one gender dominating the other has actually been going on for eons of time, okay, for thousands of years. There was a time around the fall of Lemuria, for example, where women were spiritually sick and were getting crazy and thought that men were like useless and treated them horrifically because they didn't have the power to birth and they didn't respect them. And there were cults about like they don't have the power to birth, so they're weak, like all these things. And it's just that we've been through this imbalance before. What's happening now is that we're coming into a time of invited, or Spirit saying invitational union. This has to do with the point or period of time that we are in now, which is the ascension period, or an accelerated period of ascension. And so we're coming into healing. Now, in the first phases of the acceleration, what happens in ascension phases is that things look like worse, because the light comes in and it reveals all the impurity and it reveals all the shadow. And so the splits and the pain and anything that's negative, and in this context, the split, becomes even more obvious or more expressed. This pain between the two genders has always been there. It's always been living under the surface. Now it's just coming more fully into our conscious awareness. So the channeling that I have here is coming more towards women. It's an invitation for women to look at, how can I heal my divine masculine from a really healthy, empowered, not going to tell you to just accept unhealthy behaviors or any of that stuff. It's not soft. It's the strong way of healing this issue, and why we should, and why it's important for your own healing to not push away the masculine, for you to be in your full power. And if you are a man watching this, I just invite you to receive and to, have your own experience in that. So let me look at my notes here. So, the first thing, to be honest, that happened was I was sitting down in my backyard and I was planning to go into channeling. And something that's been coming up for me to heal has been my relationship with feeling safe in my magic, and in my my magic, which is my rawest, my most raw feminine, to be so open and exposed in that way. And for me, just basically leveling up. I've been doing this for years and years. I'm very skilled and experienced in this, in doing magic, but I'm reaching new heights in that, as obviously as we grow. And so I have some interesting things coming up, and one of the things was for women, just basically the fear of being harmed whilst in prayer, and let alone being in prayer, which is one of our most raw, as I say, raw, open, vulnerable states. This was put forth by Spirit to share this with you, because it is something that is living dormant in the cells of a lot of women, is feeling unsafe to be in their magic, aka a prayer, aka your full power. It doesn't have to necessarily simply relate to psychic capacities. It's just that that's what happens naturally and overflows when women are coming into their greater power. And the loss of that has affected us, and that is why it's part of this topic as well. And it's going to make more sense as we flow. So why should you care about healing the divine masculine, healing your relationship with the divine masculine as a thing? Why? Why does it matter? Because you are part divine masculine. You may not want to be if you have deep pain around this, but you are. You are part divine masculine. And when you reject something that is of you, obviously you are rejecting yourself. Again, this doesn't mean we accept negative behaviors, etc. But we're talking about the energy of divine masculine. How can you change and shift and heal your relationship with that energy so it is not so distorted by the scars of your past? You deserve to be freer in that. So here we go. So knowing this as truth, that God, the Holy Father, is actually what holds the space of the feminine to birth. When I say God in this moment, I mean the Holy Father, or the Holy Masculine. You as a feminine, okay, you are a portal. We're talking about you coming into your power. Again, whether that's priestess powers or just being a fully empowered woman who's able to hold the full feminine power, or aka I call it the feminine force. So in order to fully hold that, or fully be that, your masculine structure inside who and what you are, it has to be held by the divine masculine. So when a woman or a priestess in those times, or focusing your power, whatever you're doing, when a woman is doing that or wanting to be that, she has to have her holy structure stabilized. There is a masculine aspect to your energetic system, to your consciousness, that facilitates your connection with the Holy Father or God. In this context, that's one and the same, just for this context. So when we were priestesses and we wanted to open and call in the beautiful purity of our own childlike nature that then allowed the God force or psychic impressions, intuition to come through you, to be in your full magic, we had to first connect to the Holy Father. The Holy Father energy is so beautiful because we are talking about a healthy masculine, a divine masculine. I'm not talking about your dad. I'm not talking about the unhealthy men that you may have experienced in this world. We are talking about a truly divine masculine father energy. Imagining that for a moment, imagining that sensation of being the daughter of one who is grand and holy and unconditionally loving, and is father in that it is stabilizing, protective, and wants to oversee and overlook and watch over you, I should say, as the daughter that you are to it. That is the Holy Father energy. And can you feel how that, if you have that connection and you have that central, internally, when I've utilized that, it feels like a central connecting thing or a holding energy. If you're held in that, then can you imagine how soft and free and safe you feel? And then when we're speaking about magic, that's when we open. And for a woman, if we're not speaking about magic, but we're just talking about integrating a Holy Father energy in your day-to-day, I need to feel that sensation of relationship with the Holy Father, with the universe, so that I can feel safe to then be free and fully expressed in this world. A lot of things out there at the moment, they say like the feminine or a woman's number one priority is to feel safe. But it doesn't stop there. That's like, yes, that's what she desires, but what does she actually desire that for? Because through safety, then she can be expressed and free. And that is what the feminine truly desires. That is the full feminine expression, is freedom and fullness of who she is. So integrating the Holy Father energy is going to change the game. It's going to change your dynamic with the universe, with your spiritual work, with everything. And it isn't talking about like some concept of Christian, like traditional Christian religion of a Holy Father that can be punishing and like is like a man in the sky and like all this stuff. No, we're talking about the sun. We're talking about the eye of Ra. So in Egyptian mythology, the sun god Ra, he is above. The Holy Father, that's why people refer to the sun, and shamans, I think they call it like grandfather sun. Because this is the thing, is that our very sun is masculine. The white sun that we have in this era of Earth is a masculine force. It is the masculine force or masculine principle is a protruding energy. It's a forward moving, the active principle. So we are watched over by a Holy Father energy, and that provides for everything in this world, including you. So can you see how important it is for you to mend and heal this connection with Father energy? Okay, this is going to, like, the mending of that and the purification of that and the reclamation of that is going to be mending things with like your concept of dad and father and psychological wounds that you might have there, purification of that, and also of potential religion as well. So that's really important, the Holy Father. Okay. Now, one like methodology about, so not just the Holy Father, but the masculine in general, about healing that spirit was giving, is to really realize that what you're seeing around you from men, like generally speaking, unwell men, what you're seeing and your painful relationships with the masculine, like that is not the masculine. That is not holy masculine energy. He is not there. That is not him. And when I've done these personal learnings in my own journey, that's what the Holy Father said to me. He said, you know, you looked around your life and you thought that you were looking at the masculine and that's what you thought he is. But he said, I was not there. I was never there. And that is not me. I would never leave you. I would never treat you that way. That is not me. So rewiring and shaping your concept and association with what you think masculine is, or what you unconsciously, what your cells are associating masculine with. Okay, because most of what we're seeing around us in trauma responses in men is weak feminine, which is when a man is very passive and potentially abandoning and anything related to passivity. And then also toxic masculine, which is just like the dark masculine or the shadow aspect of the masculine. And the passivity is more like the sickness of the unintegrated feminine, or the sickness of the unintegrated feminine, or like the lack of masculine energy. So the passivity is a lack of masculine energy, and the toxic masculine is a distortion of masculine energy. And that is not wholly masculine. What we're seeing around us, it's not actual masculine, like as a substance. That's not what it is. It's not who he is. Okay, so Spirit was saying, we need to have this perception of a brand new, fresh start for masculine. Like, pretend, it says, like, they literally said to me, pretend that you didn't already have any association or relationship with him or it, you know. You would see him for what he is then. Only then will you be able to see him for who he truly is and be able to just explore that concept, just like intuitively. Pretend for a minute that you have no memories of any man and that is not a thing that's ever happened. And then ask yourself in a quiet moment, or ask the universe, okay, what is masculine? Like, what is that? Most women would like literally walking around like, what is that? I've never seen that. Like the amount of women that I know, and me being one of them for the longest time, who had never actually met an actual masculine man, meaning a safe masculine man, a healthy masculine man, who had never literally ever been exposed to that frequency. How are we supposed to know? Like, of course, we're running around feeling the way that we're feeling, but now it's our time just to recognize that and do something with that and say, okay, I don't know what it is. I'm going to stop judging all of that and like rejecting the whole concept and be like, okay, show me, universe, show me what it is. Sitting quietly, you will start to notice or be given impressions of the frequencies, tones of the masculine energy, which is determination, strength, structure, stability, protection, containment, these sorts of forces, and leadership, all with a good or positive intention. None of the distortion version of containment, which would be ownership. None of the distorted intention of like determination, which could be like oppression. No, that's distortion. Simply, it is structure, it is stability, it is these ingredients that then create safety. It's not really safety itself is not so much a thing as it is to create a structure that then produces or produces safety in the system, in somebody's system. Okay, this is what the masculine is, and so far you have to admit that like that's not something you've been relating it to, not neutrally, not like that. Okay, forgetting your current experience or association with the men masculine, and that it's not him. Okay, it's not. And then, as I say, develop your own connection with him. Completely ignore your past stuff and thinking that you know who or what he is, because you don't. If you have this trauma and you haven't done a lot of work on it, if it's still sitting there, you don't. and recognize that he is not in that. Like, he has not been living in those experiences. He's not in those men. And yeah, when I did this work, it was so magical, you guys. Then you'll start to see him for who he truly is. Okay? When I was writing this sort of concept or strategy, then Spirit said, speak about this doubt or fear that women feel and may have popped into your head or in your healing journey as you've been hearing this or things like this. That doubt or fear is that women feeling like it won't make a difference. They're just like a sense of futility, like it won't make a difference, or I've tried and it doesn't work, it won't make a difference. This is being addressed because Spirit is aware of how you feel, and they offer the reminder that no, like, we are the mastery over our own temple. You are the master over your own temple. You allow and alchemize everything into being. And you can choose. And in this concept, what we're talking about is choosing truth. Choosing truth over the illusions of what the wounding and the psychology and traumas and are trying to tell us, and your systems kind of started to associate as masculine. Separating that, being the master over your own temple and saying, no, I'm going to choose what actually is truth. And I'm going to choose that that's true. Okay? When we make the journey towards shedding these associations and we start to heal, which can be a long process or a breakthrough or a breakdown or a mix, eventually what women fall into in your healing journey of integrating your masculine, all we're trying to do is integrate our masculine and love that. Eventually we come into the love of the mother, or the mother aspect of the feminine. Okay, this is an important part in healing the masculine, or healing our masculine relationship to the masculine, because the love of the mother is a river that is flowing inside of all women. It is within your womb space, and it is cleared. It is in there when the womb space is cleared of energetic debris such as grief, the deep grief and loss that many women are living with, which is, I can't find him anywhere. I've never seen him. As I said, I've never been exposed to that frequency. Where is he? And also watching men, a lot of men get sicker and sicker, or watching the shadows rise more and more. Like, it's heart-wrenching. And in your healing journey of healing your feminine or healing your masculine, you are probably going to come across this, like, meet with this wound that most women are carrying in our DNA, in our wombs, which is the grief of the loss of the masculine. Like, where did he go? Where did the other half of me that I love in our world and that I seek to have union with, and that I deep down below my resentment, below my anger and feministic pain and all this, like, division, is a fucking longing for union. It's like women that are like, I hate men, I've cut off men. They're actually in so much pain that they can't even bear it. They can't even bear the deep down grief that is under the anger. Okay, because we have all lost in this time period. Men and women, we have all lost something so precious. For women, it is our sons. Now, you may say, I don't have a son. That doesn't make sense. Okay, but this is the thing. Every man is every woman's son, because the men are born of a woman. The woman is the birthing force. And so whether or not it's conscious to you, you probably carry this grief within you. And now many women, especially, okay, so just taking my example, which has the lineage of the Sisterhoods of the Rose, and then before that, the Dawn, the Sisterhood of the Dawn within Venus. And it was in a time or an era of feminine energy and a feminine black sun that men did not exist. until a point that women created them. Women birthed them. And we birthed them as kings to be protectors and guardians for our world. They were birthed and they were loved unconditionally by the great mothers. Okay? And we are all descendants of those great mothers and that lineage, especially if you're a conscious woman. This is going to be closer in your consciousness and lineage, your spiritual lineage. And we birthed them because God told us to, or like the God forces, the stars told us to, because we knew of a time coming when they would be needed. The time of the white sun was coming. And so we called and we weave them through our being, through our temple space, through our wombs. And we created that which is called man. And we loved them unconditionally. We loved them so greatly. And we watched them rise as kings and giants. They were giants, truly. And they carried the song of the stars and of our family and our history. And they carried the essence of protector, guardian, leadership, king, as they became the new rulers, let's say, or kings, which means protector and guardian over the new realm, which was the white sun. We had to hand over the leadership or the song of our leadership to the men for a time. We knew that time was coming. And we loved them so much. You actually do. Deep down, you love men. And that is why it hurts so much. Now, because of the eventual more cycles and then the loss of healthy masculine and the oppression of the feminine, and also the men lost their heart at a certain point in our history, and it was, and then the feminine had to come back, and it was a lot of a dance here. And then we come into the time period of now where we were feminine oppression, we were oppressed, and the masculine just also was gone, right? The healthy masculine, he became his distortion only. The kings became distorted. The kings went to sleep. Okay? But we may not consciously remember. I do. I have seen this. We put the men, we put the kings, the great kings, we put them in the earth. They gave of their consciousness because they knew that there would be a time period now, this time now, when men would lose themselves and the women would be calling and calling for them to come home. It is only women that can at first awaken them through the love, remembering the love, not the hate, not the fear, not the pain. If you want our world to heal, if you want masculinity, true masculinity to truly return, you want to be safe as a woman, you want all those things, you have to learn how to fucking love men again. You have to do the work and do it in a real way, not a fake way, but you have to find the love again. And I promise you that love is there as you move through. Actually move past, don't just stop, move past and through organic, authentic, integrative healing of the anger, the rage, the grief. When you hit the grief and you get through it, there's going to be the longing and there's going to be the love and the remembrance of the love, because then you are integrating the mother energy. Now, the mother energy is so great that a mother can love her son. Only a mother could love some of these men that are here walking around raping and pillaging this world. Only the unconditional love of a mother is strong enough to still love that. So, of course, women have pushed that away and rejected that. And we also push away. A mother sends her boy out into the woods to sort himself out when he is being deranged by his distorted sword, his unhealthy masculine. She knows when to send her boy into his initiation rites. Okay, she does not put up with, unconditional love does not put up with an unhealthy little boy, a weakness, a distortion, because she knows that's not love. Love is truth. Okay, and she is strong enough to set those boundaries and to say, I will not connect with you, I will not relate with you, and I will allow you to destroy yourself until you find yourself. Because the masculine must save himself. The masculine has to build himself. And And this is to the side where, men step into becoming the father again for men that are wounded and giving them the initiation that they need to remember who they are. Okay, so for us, we will come into healing that grief, right? And when you heal that grief, you're going to admit that you truly love the masculine, not the unhealthy masculine. You don't have to accept that. You don't have to say it or act like that's okay. But you have to admit that you love something of that's deepest essence and you wish it would come home. And through that love, we meet with forgiveness. Unconditional acceptance and unconditional love is unconditional acceptance is forgiveness. They are the same exact frequency. So when we are at the end of the day talking about forgiving men, forgiving them, first starting point is that it's not about them. It's not about, saying that unhealthy things are okay. And it's not about just like put them aside for a minute. It's about you forgiving so you can create freedom and peace inside of yourself instead of resentment and trauma and pain. That's why we forgive. Okay? And forgiveness isn't I love what you did and that was great of you and I accept you. If you're still running around being like that, I fully accept you back into my heart and my life. No, it's I accept that is what happened and I may have to accept that that's the way that you're choosing to be right now. And I wish you love and blessing and that you might remember who you are on your path. And I accept any role that I played in co-creating this. And I accept this. And therefore I start to see the child within. And I start to become capable of loving a child because we forgive children, right? This is the conversation around forgiveness in general, but also especially for women crying out, like, I want to forgive, but how? This is the thing for everybody. We forgive children for doing really destructive stuff, for like freaking being violent when they're like 2 years old, right? Let's say, because they don't know any better. When they do, they get older and they do push boundaries, right? They do know better, but they keep doing it. They get forgiven. Parents, like, their kid becomes a teenager. There's definitely a lot of conscious awareness there in their decisions, in their decision making. Parents forgive them. We forgive family. We forgive blood, like so much, okay? And often too much. But there's a remembrance of this, like, aspect of this person is their child self, is their traumatized self. I don't accept what they did. I discipline what they did if I am in that role in their life, and I don't expose myself to that, and I don't say that that's okay, but I understand it. And in that way, I continue to see the light in them enough that then I'm still in a state of acceptance in terms of I don't withhold the light and seeing the good in them or seeing them as a spiritual being that deserves love and is like limitlessly worthy of God's love. Same way that God or spirit or God force, it doesn't discriminate in its love. Because no matter how we feel about it, every single thing and every single person in this world, no matter what they do, no matter what they have done, is offered forgiveness by the light. Again and again, the call to come home. Now, when people are unconditionally forgiven by the God force on a spiritual lens, there is a karmic thing that they have to go through. They don't just get like, yeah, it's all sweet. Like, they have to go through the natural consequences and build themselves back up and all these things. And God force lovingly teaches them and shows them and holds them through that process the whole time. So they're receiving discipline and boundary and blah, 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 truth. They're not being exempt. They're not being, just allowed to stay ungrown, but they are being continuously held in love. Okay. Non-forgiveness and the opposite of love is when we don't hold something in love anymore. that is what we want to get to with the masculine, with men, is I want to be able to hold them in love. I want to remember. And for me, one of the biggest shifts was like literally it just came on. I'm just trying to make this a little bit more tangible for everybody as well. So for me, like I have literally been hurt by every man my whole childhood. I never knew any safe man. Even then into adulthood, my boyfriends were all toxic in some way. And it took a really, really, really long time and years of healing to be a vibrational match to a safe masculine person, to men that were maybe not perfect, but they were safe. They were embodying the masculine energy, the masculine essence. And that only came after I did a lot of healing work. And but one time with a very unhealthy, abusive partner, he had just done something, and we hung up the phone, and it was an emotional, abusive conversation, and I just was so overtaken by this feeling of like deep grief and pain that he was not being who he truly is or who he truly could be. And any woman who has ever like loved someone for their potential, yes, there's a lot of like shadow and psychological stuff about our worth and things that need to be healed on that patterning. But there's also this underlying aspect, or this little blip inside of that psychological pattern that is unhealthy, needs to change. There is also this bodily remembrance of, I know you can be so much more, and it causes me great pain as your mother, as your great mother, that you would not be this force that you truly are. It like broke my heart, like not on a romantic level and not on the just like that's bad treatment and I've got to look at that level, but on a different thing, like a spiritual level or a karmic remembrance of like, oh my gosh, like they don't remember who they are. And then because of that, I could see the great suffering that they are in, and how much a being has to be suffering to be so dark, and how lost they are. And, through my womb healing, remembering like how much love we did once have for the masculine. And through that remembrance, knowing that it can come again. Okay, so forgiveness is a process of clearing out all those different layers of anger, rage, grief, but it is possible. And that is what's necessary, because when the feminine forgives, what is amazing is that she will resurrect the masculine. She will awaken the masculine. Her call of unconditional love is strong enough. Again, not saying stay in toxic relationships. We're talking energetically, energetic, emotional within you. You will raise your own masculine up into your being again, and you will know what safety, stability, and protection, all of that feels like in your own nervous system, in your own energy, in your own body. Okay. And then also the side effect of that is that your feminine then becomes free and more powerful. And that is why it's important to do this work, so that you can be in your full feminine force. You cannot be in your full feminine power, your full power as a person, if you are rejecting 50% of your energetic system, or a whole, maybe not 50%, I should say, a whole bunch of your energetic system. That is necessary for you to feel vibrations like safety and structure and all of that. That then is necessary for you to feel feelings of it's safe to be open, I'm free to be free, this sort of thing. Okay, it's safe to fully express myself now. So remember what I said about the sun and how the sun is the white sun. Okay. I raise my chest to the sun and I allow him to bless me. I am blessed by the Holy Father, his providership, and I know that I am held safe and watched over, just as the eye of Ra. He loves me as his daughter. He is the protector and watcher over all. And he is the Holy Father principle, and allowing him to purify me and also to allow and hold the little girl, the innocence, you know, the white feminine or the light feminine within me, the play. Okay? Because she is now guarded. She is now guarded. Now, I also saw this vision of the suns that I want to show you. So this was in remembrance of how the white sun came to be. Okay, so what I saw was 3 kind of like smaller suns, 3 suns. And these suns were an essence of Elohim, which is another word for God or angelic. We could probably perceive it as angelic forces closest to God, Elohim. These 3 suns, and then these 3 suns, which is S-U-N and S-O-N, masculine essence, pulses and vibrates and merges into the one sun that we see in our sky. This is the holy trinity of 3. We created the feminine from Venus. We created the trinity. We created that they would perfectly match the system that is needed now. We created the masculine. We created the white sun that would always shine, provide love, remembrance, and truth. Our sun is held up by a masculine. Our sky is held up by a masculine light, so that the earth, the feminine, can be held in that. Okay, and women are the earth. And I'm just going to show you this, like, not very good drawing, but you get the vibe here. Okay, so this is the tones. It's like I was hearing music, which I often hear for angelic forces, angelic rays coming from the Elohim suns into our grand white sun. And I was like, maybe that's why shamans and stuff, they call this the grandfather sun. I don't know if that's true, but I was like, it's like an extension. It's, you know, it's an extension. And yeah, making a music of love, angelic light, fused together, these forces make a whole, complete perfection. We are the sons and daughters of a white sun, a masculine sun that is blessing us. If we are rejecting the masculine, we are rejecting the sun, the solar aspect. We are not receiving the greatest blessings of the sun that we could be. We are not allowing providership to come into our life as much as it could. We are not literally, we will be receiving literally less light. And we will not have that relationship in the universe where there is a sun, a Holy Father watching over us. Okay? It was also like kind of like a noble knight who is responsible for his province, or a king as they used to be, only as they used to be. This was very important because even now some people have a relationship with that word king, or like old-timey kings of like domination. Spirit was like, go with like the language of a noble knight looking over his county, like I couldn't remember the word, his county or his province, right? But in the oldest of old times, when those men that we raised, that we birthed, they were great protectors over a realm, great kings over a realm. Okay, and this was what made it safe to do our magic in temple cultures. So our relationship with the Holy Father is paramount. This is the importance of healing your association with the masculine forces. And they were saying, literally, again, like literally stop looking for it outside of yourself in men. For it is in us. It is already in us. It is all around us. It is awaiting for your distrust to be chosen to heal, for you to choose to heal your distrust. Okay. And this means too, we don't look for it in men. So this means we don't ask, we don't beg. We don't beg them. When it is not aligned, we look into ourselves for the peace and the healing that we are trying to receive from them. Only there will it ever truly be found, okay? What you're wanting will only be found within. And as I said before, by looking within and mending your connection with the Holy Father and the masculine in general, the sun. So we talked about the Holy Father. We talked about them being as sons and boys. you know, of course, love is a part of all of this as well. But looking outside of ourselves for the masculine, it is only going to, for a lot of circumstances, and for the, like in the context of healing and this conversation, it may only feed like the resentment and the grief and all of that. And so instead of looking at that, look within yourself for developing your own relationship with the masculine, remembering that it is you that will call him upwards, up from your womb. Once you clear the grief and the debris that is in there, you know, this is why in the story of Yahweh or Jesus and Mary Magdalene, the truth about that whole thing, it was a ritual of transmutation, of transforming darkness into light that Yahweh or Jesus was doing. It was a man that did it because it contained the forces of the white sun, or because we were in a white sun. He was held and he was produced by the lineages of the rose lineage, who before then was the sisterhoods of the dawn of Venus. Mother Mary held the last codes of the dawn, the sisterhoods of the dawn, which is Venus. Okay, and then it kind of turned into the love of the rose in Egypt. The women held him and helped fortify him, and blessed him with their unconditional love. For Mary Magdalene, it was a romantic, beyond romantic that we understand it now, but it was a union love that she was holding, and then the Mother Mary was holding the unconditional love of the mother. And they grieved when he died. They were in so much pain. They were grieving it. They were going through that death of the masculine almost with him. Not the same, but in their own way, the loss of the masculine again. And, their hearts were breaking. And their wombs, I'm sure, were doing a lot of magic. And then outside of, his tomb, when he was gone for 3 days, he was gone. The masculine has gone from this realm. And yet Mary Magdalene, she held the faith that he would rise. She held the faith from her love. Her love, and any of the women's, their love, is what allowed him to return, is what supported him to return, is what called his spirit, showing me like spirit strings, like what do I want to say, like his streams of consciousness, streams of energy that were him. They helped weave him back together through their love, just as they weaved them into existence through their love in Venus. They did it again in this time, calling his being home, back to aliveness, so to speak, back to being risen after he went through a transition of death. And it was their love and their remembrance for him. The tomb, why did he do his death ritual? Why did they take his body and continue the ritual into the tomb? Because a tomb or a cave is basically a replication of a womb space, literally, energetically. And this kind of magic gets stronger the deeper the cave is into the earth and closer it is to the center of the earth. You start to go into the interdimensional membranes of Mother Earth, and a cave creates a womb container energetically. A womb is a contained interdimensional space. I want to say like an in-between space. Have you heard of that concept in movies and stuff of like in-between worlds? Like there's the world and maybe another world, and there's the in-between space. That's what these caves were, and that's why, like, for millennia, we would do magic in caves. Okay, everything is amplified and can be more fully and easily birthed, and magic is stronger. The interdimensionality is more present, is thinner. The veil is thinner, so to speak, in a womb space. In this case, in a cave. And so we took his body into there so that it could go through transmutation and go through, like, we took it into a womb. So what's happening? It's being rebirthed. It's being made alive again. He's being made alive again. And when they came to the cave, his body was gone because his body had been part of the transmutation and the rebirth. So when we clear our wombs of all of this pain and grief and the loss that we've lived of losing the one that we love, when we clear that and we begin and commit to mending our inner masculine, we actually call that force back to life inside of our womb and we rebirth it into our being. This is amazing magic, and it is happening and available inside of you right now. You do not need to weep for the masculine, for he lives in you. You do not need to cry for him because he is alive in your heart, beneath the pain, beneath any fear, beneath the things that you've gone through. He is alive. The king is risen. That is what that means. And it is cultivated through healing our feminine, then we heal our masculine, then we create a sense of union as he rises. And this is what will heal our world. Okay, this is why that grand version of it, that ritual, was done. This is one big part of that ritual because it was replicating what we're here to do. And when women do this and you're able to meet the masculine or meet something wounded with unconditional love, again, not without boundaries if necessary, but you're actually able to hold something in love. What does love do? Love transmutes. Love heals. It may take some time. The men in your life, or the one that you want to heal, or the one that you miss, or the one that you're calling in, it may take time. They have free will to resist the transmutation and the rebirth effect that women are capable of and are calling and soaking men in. In this world, the women that are doing this work, we are putting the men through this ritual again. They are being called back home to the womb space to be rebirthed and healed through the unconditional love of a mother, okay, for that transmutation to happen. But it can only happen with their choosing, their free will, and over time, okay? But this is how we get the masculine back into our world. So if we care anything about that at all, and we care about union inside of ourselves and being in our own full power and this world, we have to get over ourselves and get over the pain that's there. And men need to do this too for the feminine. Your feelings of abandonment around the feminine, like all these different things, relationship with the mother especially, all of that, you have to heal it, you have to face it, and you have to be willing to go deep, 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 go and go and go until you find that place of forgiveness, aka unconditional love, aka acceptance, aka forgiveness. That is what transmutes and rebirths, okay? And I've seen this in my own life. I've gone through this journey, and you can read about that in my Substack, and especially in a lot of my older journal entries. It's been an incredible journey of witnessing that, going through my own system and really witnessing all of that come to life through me. It's amazing. And so this magic that we are called to do, it is deeply tangible, it is deeply powerful, and it is physical. It is in your cells, it is in your womb, it is in your heart, it is in your voice, and it is in your day-to-day life. So healing this is what is going to line you up to the truth of your being, into your wholeness, into the union. That is what you really seek when you're calling in the masculine. That is what you really want, is for the king to rise within you so that you can feel all of those tones of safety, structure, stability, all of that you truly desire. When we do this, we will create heaven on earth. We will create the union. Okay, and learning how to do this is a process, and if you have the desire in any way at all to do this, I'm here for the women who are ready.